Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Shrimadbhagavatam Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Bhagana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Bhagana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Kund Bihari Radha Kund Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Kund Bihari Radha Kund Bihari Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Aladeva Mai Subhaya Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Aladeva Mai Subhaya Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath Ji Jaya Govardhan Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jaya Hari Bo Jaya Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jaya Hari Bo. Now we should pause from Sapriva Jagacharya Stotra and Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Now we should pause from Sapriva Jagacharya Stotra and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada. Ananda Koti Vaishnava. Antaraj Shrimadbhagavatam. Sama Veda Bhakti. Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to someone. Hare Krishna. All glories to someone. Hare Krishna. Glories, all glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. 7th. Hare Krishna. Reading from Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, Text number 7. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Nanotamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devam Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtiki.
Text number 7. Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana. Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid. Dayamanam Astratejasa. Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana. Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid. Dayamano Astratejasa. Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana. Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid. Dayamano Astratejasa.
Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana. Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid. Dayamano Astratejasa. Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana. Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid. Dayamano Astratejasa.
Matur Garbha Gato Viraha. Satada Brigunandana.
Satada Brigunandana.
Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid.
Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid.
Dayamano Astratejasa.
Dayamano Astratejasa. Matu. Mother. Garb. Womb. Gataha. Being situated there. Viraha. The great fighter. Saha. Child Parikshit. Tada. At that time. Brigunandana. Sara Brigu. Dadarsha could see Purusham, the Supreme Lord, Kanchit, as someone else, Dayamana, suffering from being burned, Astra, the Brahmastra, Tejasa, temperature. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. O Sadabrigu Shaunak, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra, thrown by Ashwathama. He could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Please repeat, O son of Brigu,
O son of Brigu,
Shaunaka. When the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother, Uttara, and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra, thrown by Ashwathama. He could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Purport. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of the father's semen, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in the specific bodies according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he comes out of it and sometimes fortunately prays the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwathama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his powerful energy. The child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, the word viraha has been used. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadabaya Drati Kaparantitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagatatam Sagana Raghunatam Mitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha Krupa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Pashyata Deshatayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. O son of Brigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwathama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. So now we begin the description of Parikshit Maharaj's birth. Yesterday, I think we concluded the section in this chapter around glorifying Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj obviously is, the greatest king, and he exemplified such extraordinary qualities. In yesterday's verse, we discussed that how the demigods were so attracted to the opulence that they had a desire to have it. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was completely untouched by the opulence. He was completely unattached. And it's hard to imagine how like one can be in such a, royal assembly, huge palaces, endless number of servants, wonderful prasadam every day, royal garments, power, all these things, and how one cannot be attached to it. But this is the supremacy of bhakti, that when one engages in bhakti, the experience is so extraordinary that these things which seemingly are meaningful feel extremely insignificant. And an example we can understand and relate to, in a mundane example. If we are walking down the street and we see $100 bill, we would jump at it. It's a significant amount of money. But if Elon Musk is walking down the street and he sees a $100 bill, he's going to think, well, if I bend down, I could pull a muscle in my back. Then I'll have to go into physical therapy for 3-4 weeks. Or I could trip and fall. It's not worth it. And move on. Why? Because in his wealth standard, $100 is nothing. So the wealth standard of bhakti is so extraordinary that something that is still very high, all this opulence feels insignificant. But even more than that, it's explained that liberation itself is ridiculed. Moksha lagurtakrit. It's explained in the explanation of Bhava Bhakti that even moksha, the idea of liberation, going to Vaikuntha, spiritual world, right? We say, we are practicing so we can go back home, back to Godhead. But even that, going back to Godhead is insignificant. Going back to Godhead is not insignificant. But from the perspective of one who is engaged in pure bhakti, it feels very small. Another example that we can, to understand this is, if you go to New York City, right? And you see these giant, tall buildings. They're huge buildings. They're very significant structures. But then when you leave and you fly home, and you fly over New York City, these buildings look very small. So from that perspective, the buildings look very small. From the perspective on the ground level, they look very huge. So similarly, for the devotee, from the perspective of having experienced pure bhakti, it's so sweet in of itself that even this, liberation feels very small. It is not small. It is huge. But it is very small in proportion to the happiness from bhakti. So the denizens of the heavenly planets are so strongly desiring this opulence, Yudhishthira Maharaj. So it tells us that he had more opulence than in the heavenly planets. Right? You don't desire something lesser than what you already have.
No.
You only desire something more. So Yudhishthira Maharaj had such extraordinary opulence because of his bhakti, that even the denizens of the heavenly planets wanted it. But him, it was like insignificant. Because it just gives us some context for how strong devotional service is. So what the heck are we doing holding on to our material attachments? It's so foolish. It's so full of ignorance. Because what awaits us is obtaining something far, far, far beyond even the opulence Yudhishthira Maharaj had. Because the opulence Yudhishthira Maharaj had was one that he could actually enjoy it because there was no threat to him. The opulence of most kings I discussed 2 days ago is such that they're always at risk of it being taken away and they live in fear. But here, it's not like that. So, when a great personality like this is in place, extraordinary things happen. And now we see in this lineage that who has come? Another great personality. Parikshit Maharaj. And Parikshit Maharaj is being described as the great fighter. So we'll come to that in a few minutes, but Prabhupada opens the verse with a very interesting statement. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. Wait a minute, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? Anybody knows what that means? Death generally means involving in trance for 7 months. What it means is this, that for anyone who is not a devotee, death means birth. Death means birth is coming. It's guaranteed. Why? Because when the living entity changes bodies, or we can say, first of all, dies, what happens? That the living entity has to now consume its karma. So whatever karma it accrued during its lifetime, and whatever balances might be there from prior lifetimes, if there is any balance left, either good or bad, or both, the living entity has to come back to take it. Nobody else will take it for him or her. So, of course, anyone who is not engaged in pure devotional service, they're accruing karma. And so, by definition, when they die, there's some balance left. So, death means birth. So, when we talk about the cycle of birth and death, why it's a cycle? Because now birth has come. So, birth has come, so they consume their karma. But in that life, they are doing what? More karma. And so they are adding to their account and depleting their account, adding to their account, depleting the account, adding, depleting, adding. And at death, there is some balance. So what means? Birth again. And this cycle continues. And how do you break the cycle? Only when one becomes engaged in pure devotional service. Why pure? Because any other activity creates karma. But if I, from this birth, only engage in pure devotional service, then no new karma is created. Because every action, it has no reaction. Because the reaction goes to Krishna. And Krishna says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will free you of all your sins. So, as doing bhakti, all your past reactions, whatever balances might be there, that's also gone. So, death means birth. And birth means disease, old age, and death. And death means birth. And birth means old age, disease, death. This is the cycle that we talk about. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. These 4 things. So this is so Prabhupada is saying that death means 7 months of trance, because when in the human form of life, the living entity begins its birth process, it is in a basically unconscious state for 7 months in the womb of mother. it has a level of consciousness, as explained in 3rd canto, to Devahuti, but the full consciousness is not there yet. But then it awakens. In that point we wish, oh, better I was in trance. Because what do we awaken to? We awaken to, I am trapped in a bag. A bag. Of fluids. This fluid contains my own urine, stool. I am upside down. I am in a curled position, not reclined position. In that contaminated bag, there are different worms, and they bite us. And that causes pain. So, if we offered anyone, hey, $1 million if you sit like this for 2 months. Anybody's willing to do it? No. Not even 2 minutes you'll sit. But we are preparing to sit like that. Again, if we don't take to devotional service. That is exactly how we are going to sit again. Because unless one engages in spirit, death means birth. We are booking our ticket in that seat. There's not a business class seat. But that's the seat we are booking unless we take to devotional service. Of course, Prabhupada says the law of birth this is the law of birth in specific bodies. Means that the living being, according to his own actions, karma, is allowed to enter into the womb of a specific mother. So based on my past karma and my desires, 2 things. I go from one body to another. Yam yam vapis manam bhavam tejantate kalevaram. Krishna explains in the 8th chapter. Whatever you desire at the end of your life, you achieve. But it's not absolute. Your desire, but also what is your qualification? If I want to live in a mansion like this, it can happen. But whether I live in this mansion as the owner or as the cockroach, it's based on my karma. So this situation is like that, right? And the most famous example of this, taking birth based on what you're meditating on at the time of death, what do we see in Shrimadbhagavatam? Whose example do we see?
Which one?
Where what we are thinking of at the time of death, that we achieve in next life. Jada Bharat. Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord. He was in ashram doing devotional service. But he came attracted to one deer. Not deer, the baby of the deer. Doe. And because when the deer was jumping and crossing the river, the pregnant deer discharged the baby. And the mother kept going. And so Bharat Maharaj felt some responsibility to care for this deer. But on his deathbed, he was thinking, oh, what happened to the deer? This doe, now grown up. And so what happened in next life? He became deer. But he was blessed. Because in that condition he remembered, oh, I was a human, a devotee. But I messed up. So he came back to the ashram as a deer. And when he left his body, he came back as Jadava. And there, what he did, he acted like a madman, a crazy person. He was not crazy. But he knew that if I act like a crazy person, nobody will want to talk to me. Nobody will want to disturb me. They'll all ridicule me. He didn't care. He did not want to be tempted by anything. He already made that mistake once. Problem is, we have made this mistake millions of times. We have sat in that seat millions of times. And millions of times, we have begged to Krishna, please get me out of this. I'll never do this again. And as soon as we get out, we are enveloped in Maya. We forget Krishna. Right? We have this experience, right? We remember Krishna sometimes when we need him, when we are in some desperate situation. As soon as that desperate situation is resolved, then Krishna Smaranam becomes difficult. So, in the womb of the mother, our consciousness is, get me out of here. Save me. And Krishna provides protection. And we promise, oh Krishna, I'll not do anything like this again. But we soon forget. So this is the cycle that Srila Prabhupada came to stop for us. No more sitting in this seat. Instead of saying back to Godhead, we can say, no more sitting in that seat. That will remind us more vividly of what is the risk of maintaining our material attachments. Because we are so foolish. If back to Godhead, okay. Back to Detroit, Michigan, not too bad. Winters are cold. Otherwise, it's nice. No. Back to this seat or back to Godhead. If we remember this every day, the decisions we make become very clear. Now, what is Parikshit Maharaj's great condition? So, he was feeling the heat of this Brahmastra weapon. Because Ashwatthama wanted to end the dynasty. Right? And Parikshit Maharaj was the last hope. And he fired his weapon. But nobody can supersede the will of Krishna. This single statement is what gives us the path to fearlessness. Abhaya. Abhaya means fear. We are full of fear. Abhaya means fearless. Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Why Srila Prabhupada was fearless? Because he understood this, that this nuclear weapon, this Brahmastra weapon, Prabhupada compared to this nuclear weapons many times more powerful. Because it can be very specifically applied. A nuclear weapon is dumb. Dumb in the sense, it cannot discriminate. Whereas this weapon can discriminate. So it's intelligent. But a devotee is fearless in the midst of that even. Why? Because whoever Krishna wants to protect, nobody can harm. And whoever Krishna wants to harm, nobody can protect. So the devotee knows that if I am going to be killed by this weapon, that is Krishna's plan. And if I am to be saved by this weapon, that would be Krishna's plan. So, there is no need to fear. Why? Because my Father's plan for me is always perfect. Who has doubt in Father's plan? At least we can say perfect Father's plan. Right? Perfect Father. If I'm supposed to be dead by this weapon, okay, no problem. So, fearlessness comes through only one path. Faith in Krishna's plan. If I have faith in Krishna's plan, how I can have even a moment of fear? Fear means something bad happening to me. Right? Ultimately, what fear is the emotion of losing something I value. I have fear of death because I'm going to lose this body. But not the body actually I fear losing. I fear losing all the possessions of this body. The relationships it has, the wealth it has, the fame, the beauty, all these possessions of the body. That is what fear is. But a devotee is fearless because what possessions they value? They're Krishna Shmara. Remembering Krishna. Their only fear is, Krishna, don't let me forget you. So Parikshit Maharaj, it says that the Lord, because he was a devotee, the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy. And the child could see. Krishna appeared. And Parikshit Maharaj could see that someone was protecting me. So in that regard, Parikshit Maharaj was saved. Now, it's a very interesting point in this purport that if we read further, we have to a little bit dig out. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature. Why, if Krishna was there, he did not dissipate the heat? Think. Parikshit Maharaj is called Viraha, great fighter. Prabhupada writes that this is a very important point. So, Krishna came to save him. Right? But why he did not then turn on the AC a little bit? Or dampen the heat?
From his previous births.
No.
No. Wow.
Pure devotee doesn't have previous karma. So this is very important for us. That even those difficulties that the pure devotee faces, that is Krishna's blessings. Why? Because that intensifies the devotee's love and surrender and attachment to Krishna. And we see this, right? When Krishna left Vrindavan, how much suffering the residents of Vrindavan went through. When you read, it's like heartbreaking. When Lord Nityananda left Ekachakra, this sannyasi came, he was 12 years old, young boy, and Lord Nityananda was like the entire meditation of the whole village of Ekachakra. All the residents, they didn't even care about their own children, wives, husbands. They were just in love with Lord Nityananda. So when he left, because the Brahmin sannyasi asked that, I'm going on travels and I could use your son to help assist me. Of course, this was the divine arrangement of Lord Nityananda. So he left. 20 years he traveled all over India, seeing all the holy places, and then lived in Vrindavan, waiting for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to call. But what happened to Hadai Pandit and Padmavati, the mother and father of Lord Nityananda? Hadai Pandit did not eat anything for 3 months. He was in unbearable pain. Unbearable pain of separation. And in an unbearable pain, what was his only shmaranam? So Krishna sometimes gives us difficulty, not as a result of our past karma, but as this adding fuel to the fire. Our acharyas compare that even like this separation, right? It intensifies the union. And the example is given. When one is very hungry, then the taste of the foodstuffs becomes more relishable.
Okay.
But if you're not experiencing hunger, then you don't experience the full taste of those foodstuffs. So like that, sometimes in separation of physical Krishna, it intensifies our shmaranam. It's not exactly the analogy because the devotee is never separated from Krishna. Because to think of Krishna and to be with him is one and the same. Right? So Parikshit Maharaj is experiencing this. So we should not expect that, then my life will become completely smooth. Because actually that's not good for us. Because what happens? We will become, unless we're extremely pure, we'll think, life is pretty good. Who needs Krishna? Who needs Krishna? I remember, when I was younger, in studying Srila Prabhupada's life, I thought, why Krishna did that to Srila Prabhupada? I mean, the unbearable challenges he faced. Heart attacks on the boat, no medical facilities, severe seasickness, landing in New York City and not even proper shoes and 2 feet of snow. Why he didn't keep snow away that season? He's staying in a place with no bathroom, no washroom even. Had to walk 2.5 blocks to use the washroom. Literally, how many of us would stay in a place, no running water? I'm wondering why Krishna would do such a thing. But to a pure devotee, has so much faith in Krishna that difficulty actually inspires, pushes them closer to Krishna. It is not the torture of Krishna. So Krishna knows what we can tolerate and how much we can do. So we see here, though Krishna had come to protect Parikshit Maharaj, still he was having to feel the unbearable heat. For us, in our impure state, those difficulties are the reminder. Don't forget Krishna. Because when things get too good, we forget Krishna. So this is the beginning of the glorification of Parikshit Maharaj that we'll see continuing in the next few verses. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shrimadbhagavatam ki. Any questions, comments, realizations?
Nice. I like the analogy. Death equal to birth. Death is birth.
Death means birth. Birth means death and taxes.
Okay.
And we have to have faith in our Supreme Father.
Krishna's plan is perfect. And he always is there to protect us. When Haridas Thakur was being beaten in the marketplaces, Krishna protected by sending Sudarshan, Chakra. But Chakra didn't move. The Chakra disobeyed the order of Krishna. Because Haridas Thakur was begging Krishna, forgive them. They are just doing what their boss has ordered. They're beating him to death. Literally. That was the objective. And he is saying, forgive them. So Chakra knew whose order is higher than even my master Krishna's order? It's the devotees. He knows. Chakra knows that Krishna surrenders to the desire of his devotees. So Chakra didn't move. So Krishna was left. I tried to save, but could not. So what did he do? Oh well and good? No. Then he personally went and he jumped onto the back of Haridas Thakur and he took those beatings. He took them. This is the endless mercy of Krishna. This is the extent of his love for each of us. That he personally came. The king, great president, if we come to see him, he'll pick us up at the airport. He'll send his vehicle. He's not personally going to come. Here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is personally coming. The Supreme Personality personally coming. He could have just extinguished the Brahmastra. Easily. Right? He could have extinguished it. He's creating universes lying down, resting, not working hard in the factory, just lying down, and universes are emanating from the pores of his skin. Only thing that emanates from the pores of our skin is odor.
Correct.
But Krishna, universe. So within these giant universe, one weapon has been released. Why he has to personally come? Because he enjoys, and his devotees recognize Krishna is Anything else? Srila Prabhupada ki. And Koti Krishna Vrinda ki. Hare.